John Feldt here. Welcome to the weekly water outlook, June 22nd, 2014. Well, we're starting summer now, and for some parts of the country, we're in a summer-type pattern, especially the south, central, and southeast U.S. with some scattered thunderstorms. The upper Midwest, though, has been quite active, and it looks like that's going to continue. So we're developing a story, I think, over the Midwest, parts of the Midwest. And if we look at Texas over the last 7 days and even parts of Oklahoma, even though I wouldn't say it's a widespread rain, at least we're getting some rain in that area. And if you remember the last number of weeks prior to this week, there was some rain, and in some cases heavy rain. So that's good to see. We don't want to get into one of these negative feedback loops in that area again, if possible, and we want to continue to try to break out of it. So over the last week, you can really see the big story was the upper Midwest. That area in red is over 5 inches of rain. You see around Sioux Falls region, South Dakota, the southeast part of South Dakota, northwest Iowa, and the northeast part of Nebraska, nearly 10 inches of rain, so very active in that area. If we look at the percent of normal precipitation, you can see a lot of red over the southwest U.S. That's extremely dry. A lot of red over the south central and southeast U.S. And look at that. See this sort of really pot mark type of red here, not real solid. That's your summer type pattern. Actually, the reason it's doing that is because in between these areas of red, there's more normal type precipitation, even some blue, and that's saying there were some scattered precipitation, but it was light. But if you look at that area over the north central U.S., you can see that purple, that's 4 to 6 times normal rainfall. Now, Texas, I said there was some rain in there, but it was still dry, with the exception of West Texas, very welcome rain in that region, especially southwest Texas. Oklahoma, a bit more scattered. Some areas very dry. A few areas a little bit more than normal precipitation. Now, this is how soil moisture changed over the last week. Brown is where soils have dried. Blue is where they've gotten wetter. And as we look a little bit closer, you can see Midwest was generally drying with the exception of that area of very heavy rain over the central part of the Midwest in blue. And then it's more scattered from Kansas down through Oklahoma into Texas, where there were some areas in blue and some areas in brown. That was sort of a hit or miss, nothing strong one way or the other. Now, temperatures over the last 7 days definitely warmed up. We can see the strongest temperature anomalies extended from Kansas across Missouri, Illinois, into Indiana. Even some temperatures, you see that area, that's 6, that area in red, that's 6 degrees above normal. From Kansas down through Oklahoma, 2 to 4 degrees above normal, and then a little bit cooler in Texas as we had some clouds from that precipitation. Now, this time of year in summertime, generally over the southern tier of the U.S., it's going to be precipitation that keeps temperatures down, not so much fronts. Fronts don't often get down anymore into the far deep south or the southeast U.S. Now, they do in the Midwest, and it'll keep things cool in the Midwest where there's more active frontal boundaries, but really it's going to be now precipitation. So if we don't get some precipitation and clouds, anomalies are going to warm. Now, stream flow here, stream flow is sort of interesting. It really shows the type of patterns, the overall precipitation patterns, and blue indicates high stream flow, and you can really see here black is very high, and you can really see this pattern here where stream flow has been active, sort of in this band right in here. This is the streams that are running very high, and then red dots on the other hand are running low. Now look at this here in Texas. You can see a blue next to a red, and that's saying that a very strong thunderstorm could have affected that river stream, and then nothing right next to it. So that's that summer type pattern. But this is the really predominant pattern we have going on over the upper Midwest, and quite a bit of flooding going on tributaries into the Mississippi, tributaries into the Missouri. So right now you can see along the Mississippi we have some degree of flooding, mainly minor to moderate, all the way down to nearly St. Louis, and then on parts of the Missouri and tributaries all the way down into central Missouri as well, and that'll probably come down almost nearly to St. Charles. So going into summer, it's not really slowing down, and I'm going to be showing you in a bit here. It looks like it won't be for a while into the future as well. So the jet stream analysis, one of the things here, if you are a regular viewer of my briefings, you see a lot of colors sometimes on these anomalies. And these are saying that the jet stream's higher, bumping up higher, or dipping down lower than normal. If it's dipping lower, it'll be shaded in blue. If it's higher, it'll be in brown. And we see almost the entire U.S. in white. And that's saying that we have a fairly normal type jet stream pattern for summer. And but having said that, there are going to be some impulses in there that could be producing precipitation. But for most of the region, especially over the south central and southeast U.S., precipitation is going to be dependent on your typical summer type thunderstorms due to heating and not so much a frontal boundary. I said the jet stream was going to be in a fairly normal alignment up to the north, providing energy over the perhaps upper Midwest, but not over the south and southeast U.S. But I wanted to show you this is pockets of energy are shaded in yellow and red, and I did want to show you that there are going to be a number of relatively weak pockets of energy going through this upper flow, and with moisture in place and with daytime heating, any one of these little pulses of energy embedded in this jet stream, even though the overall jet stream could be fairly weak, will produce precipitation. So I think that's going to be the story, multiple pockets of energy, and each one of them is going to produce a local or regional center of precipitation as we go through the week. And with many of these areas of energy, that's why precipitation over a period of an entire week could be fairly widespread. So here's the precipitation forecast for the next 7 days. And one of the things you see here is a fairly widespread pattern of precipitation over the central U.S. Some of this is going to be very welcome, parts of Kansas and Oklahoma, but then as we get up to the north in Iowa and Minnesota, it's been very wet in that region, and that region, it could produce additional flooding. So it's getting a little complicated here as far as where rain falls, that in some areas it's going to be welcome, in some areas it's not going to be welcome. So it's going to be fairly interesting as we go through the week, and I will be providing updates this week on what is occurring. So let's take a look at the climate models now. I know that many of my viewers are interested in longer term patterns, and that's sort of a focus of Blue Water Outlook. So this is the next 7 days. You can see that big area of green. Now, if you remember the briefing last week, I mentioned that last week it was sort of up here, the axis of activity, and this week it'd be down here. And that does look like what's going to happen. It's going to sag a bit further south. So rather than South Dakota, Minnesota, it might be more Nebraska, Kansas, Missouri. And that does look like where the highest amounts will be. And then next week, this is where it's sort of interesting. It looks like that the upper Midwest still is going to be a tendency towards active weather. And that's why I think that threat of flooding is going to continue into July, because I really do see that don't see a sign of that breaking. Now, it's hard to say if that's going to be a real strong anomaly and well above normal precipitation, or just more of a slightly above normal, but it does look like it's going to be areas that are wet are going to remain wet, areas dry, generally dry. And we do see a stronger trend towards below normal precipitation in Texas into the latter part of June into July. Now, temperatures this week, again, like I said, in the upper Midwest due to precipitation, and that'll keep temperatures down, and that's sort of good. You know, I'm working on some information on the importance of June precipitation, and it's nice to see we're not getting unusually hot temperatures right now, at least forecast in this region, that will really dry the soils out further. And we've got some recent rain that's been good, and you know, let's keep temperatures in check as well. And then next week, look at this. Also from Oklahoma into Texas, a bit cooler than normal, and that's going to, again, keep evapotranspiration down. As far as soil moisture outlook goes, you can see areas in blue are areas where the model's forecasting increases in soil moisture, brown decreases in soil moisture. So your takeaway from this week's briefing: continue active parts of the Midwest with a continued threat of flooding. Summertime pattern over the south and southeast U.S. with some precipitation, but it's going to be more scattered, hit or miss. And right now I don't see any signs of tropical activity. Now I'm going to be issuing a post this week. I'm going to try to do it at least every 2 weeks on tropical activity, because a lot of you are in areas that are impacted by tropical activity. So I will be getting that out in the next couple days, and updating this over the next week as far as information on the heavy rain. So I hope you've enjoyed today's briefing. Have a great week as we start summer, and I'll be talking with you again next weekend.